What's cracking me up is here we are, a couple of crazy expats. You from England, me from Charleston, somehow ending up in Virginia.
In a motorcycle shop. Perfect.
Expats who grew up in Congo, more or less.
Yeah. Do you know, that was really spooky when we linked up and just our paths crossing online and...
I know.
Jeepers, really?
Yeah. It was like a long lost brother that, you know. Anyway.
There weren't many of us out there.
Yeah. And I just had a reunion. I don't know if you may have seen it, but I went to a reunion for the school that I went to in Congo.
Oh, did you?
And it was phenomenal. It's like, you know, they were people from all classes. Oh, I heard about your brother, but I knew your parents. You know, it was like everybody just connected. Like it was, you know how the motorcycle tribe?
Yep.
It was like that. We had this expat tribe, you know.
Yeah, nice.
It was just neat to connect because of our shared experiences. We all, even though we may not have known each other in Congo, we had this.
Because when we get back to whichever country is our birth country or country of origin, well, for example, my first 2 years at school in England, I was known as Jungle Boy.
Oh.
Well, quite naturally. What a weird little kid I must have been.
Were you running around barefoot?
In Africa I was, except on Sundays, and then I had to wear shoes and a shirt. That was always worrying.
Yeah, see, I felt the same way. It was like growing up like Huckleberry Finn, you know, running around shoeless and shirtless.
And if our parents knew where we were most of the time, they would have been worried silly, wouldn't they?
Right, right. But now when you came back to England, did you have to learn how to play soccer in boots?
Oh, I did. I did. You know, as a kid, we literally did play soccer barefoot. And quite often the ball was made out of a rock that had been covered in layers and layers of newspaper with you know, multiple bits of string tied around it.
Right.
And that was our soccer ball.
Right.
And I reckon I was pretty good.
Yeah.
But getting back to the UK, and of course soccer in the UK, played in the winter, I was told I had to wear boots. And I was absolutely hopeless. Running around with these lumps of leather and rubber stuffed on the end of my legs was just ridiculous. But I was allowed to play barefoot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is back in the days when everything wasn't a liability issue.
Yeah. Now, for our viewers, we should tell them those are cleats in America, not boots.
Right. Okay. I confuse everybody all of the time with my English when I'm in the US.
Right. All right. Well, cool, man. So neat to reconnect. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing in the States.
I am on a 7-week tour, riding my motorcycle and popping up at various locations doing motorcycle travel presentations. I call it sharing the fun and corrupting people. The more people I can get to think, well, if an idiot like Sam can do this, then perhaps I could too.
Can. That's fantastic. Your motorcycle is?
Yeah, this is lucky. My F800 GS 2013, and she is so different to my other bike, which of course is my travel bike,
right?
And R80 GS.
And everybody's famous adventure motorcycle.
Yeah, no, she's a class act. She's got 278,000 miles on her now.
Crazy.
So she's been brilliant. But I'm learning to love this bike.
Okay.
She's good fun.
And you call her lucky because she fell over in somebody's garage?
Yeah, well, that did happen too. Thank you, Chris. But I don't know whether you know the full story, but what happened was I bought this bike from Mark Carrera, who is Mr. Outback Motortek USA.
Top guy.
Absolutely. And I knew he rode a lot off-road and loves his gravel and so on. But I also knew that he took care of his motorcycles. And I said to Mark, look, if one comes up in your area, would you mind going and having a look for me just to check it out? Because I'm back in the UK.
Sure. And
Mark said, well, you do realise that I've got an F800 for sale. And so we dickered a bit on the price and all the rest of it. But I just knew this bike was going to be good. But Mark, bless him, because he's the sort of character he is, he arranged for the engine to be stripped down and inspected and so on, just because he knew that I was going to be flying in and needing to get on the bike. Anyway, so I've collected all of the gear that I need, and I'm standing there in front of the motorcycle with it all spread on the floor, and I'm thinking, jeepers, how am I going to get all this on? Because it's not only your camping gear and that sort of stuff. You've got to have a bottle of scotch tucked in a corner, and you know, all of the
is that
stuff
about the corrupting people on the way? Is that?
No, that's a bit giving me some courage. And Eventually I got the bike packed, but what I didn't realise was that the F800s, when they're fully loaded, are quite hard to get off the centre stand. And with my R80 GS, of course, I've got the cylinders that I can put my knee against to push.
Right.
Well, I was
and the weight distribution is a lot lower.
Yeah, a lot lower, lower. Well, I was determined my first day with my brand new bike not to be a complete idiot and not be able to get the bike off the centre stand. I knew there had to be a technique. I just had to learn it. It was going to be fine. Yeah, well, I'm pushing and shoving. I'm really happy that nobody's watching until I get it to pop off the centre stand, and then bang, down she went. And as she went down, she hammered into Mark's toolbox, this bright red toolbox.
No.
So Mark got me to sign it on the side saying, Sam Manicom was here, with an arrow to the dent.
That is hilarious. And I guess you got a chance to sign the wall here at Merrell Farms.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm delighted to be here. I've heard so much good stuff about this place and the people that run it. And within moments of me arriving, you can feel the good vibes here, can't you?
You've never been here before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, unbelievable place.
Well, I heard about it just before COVID kicked off, of course, so I haven't been here for the last 2 years.
Right.
But Mark again and Carl Parker from ADV Moto magazine, the two of them have been raving about it.
Yeah.
And I met Blair maybe 6 years ago. I did a presentation when he was working down at
The Motors
Eurosport in Asheville.
Asheville, sure. Well, man, like you were just saying, the vibe here. I mean, everything we say, you know, we're like, you know, can we get a cup of tea? Oh yeah, it's like you're part of a family or something. It's not like you're a guest. It's more than a guest.
Yeah.
We love the vibe here.
It's so much shade for people to camp in. And the track, I mean, I haven't been out on that yet, but it looks fantastically set out. I mean, it's obviously set out by motorcyclists.
Absolutely.
And that just makes it.
Yeah.
But
So you can ride 6 miles of trails from advanced to intermediate to normal just on their property. And then, of course, all the roads. Well, you know, the road coming here from Mark's.
Well, we spent about an hour and a half riding from Mark's place, and he's taken me through some drop-dead gorgeous scenery on gravel and on just tiny twisty roads. And yeah, for me as a visitor, this area is just gorgeous to see. And it's so full of history, the old buildings and the churches and all of that sort of thing. But I think anybody who doesn't know this area needs to come and spend some time exploring.
And there's a new trail, I don't know if you're familiar with it, the Mid-Atlantic Backcountry Discovery Route. Jason, Steve, and I just finished riding the entire trail, but it goes really close to here. So, you know, if somebody riding that trail could jump off and come to Merrell Farms for a night or two.
Oh, very easily.
Rejuvenate.
Yeah, too right. No, I heard about that.
Yeah.
And I also heard that you guys had just been riding it. I'm looking forward to seeing the film when it comes out.
We finished it a couple days ago, and it's brilliant. We absolutely love it. Have you ridden any of the BDRs?
No.
No.
No, not at all. And the BDRs pretty much, they've not been something that I've been coming over to the US to do. You get a limited number of amount of time that you can be away from all your other things when you're running your own little business. And I've been concentrating on presentations and exploring in between the different venues. And
speaking of business, from here you're going to Ohio?
I am. I'm going to Wailing Wayne weekend, which is in the Waynesville National Forest in Ohio. And from there I'm going up to BMW in Detroit, and then down to Frontline Eurosports in Salem, Virginia. And then I'm going down to the BMW Riders Association national event in Waynesville, North Carolina. And then up to Expo East in Arrington. So I'm going to see some pretty countryside.
You are, yeah. That sounds like an amazing trip. Especially, I mean, the whole East Coast has so many hidden gems that people don't realize. So I think you're going to have a lot of fun.
I heard a lot of negativities about the eastern side of the United States as far as adventure riding is concerned. And I rolled over here and thought, yeah, okay, well, it's going to be what it is. But I spend a lot of time here smiling. You've just got to get off the main drags and get on the twisties.
Yeah, it's totally different from the West. So if you're expecting the West, you know, vast areas of no population, it's not that. But man, you find the little, you know, the country lanes and the roads that go through the mountain forests, and it's beautiful.
It's one of the reasons that I love coming back to the USA, because this country is just incredibly diverse, isn't it? to begin with, I wasn't sure how I felt about being in the US when we came through on the 8-year trip. But then I realized, hang on a minute, you can't think about it as being one country. This is a bunch of very different countries, and every time you cross a state border, the food changes, the accent changes, the clothes change, the type of agriculture changes, and so on. And once I started looking at it as being a bunch of countries, but very closely connected, then it all started to make sense to me, and I started to appreciate what I was finding.
It's not unlike, Europe has all those little states. We're just the United States of America. I think each state has their own idiosyncrasies, but we're just unified in that way. But so I should ask you a little bit about the books because, well, gosh, I've read all 4 of them. And the first one, of course, Into Africa, was what got me hooked because having been to Africa. But man, your stories just jump out of the page. Have you seen a big reception for them?
Thank you. That's really nice set of comments. I really appreciate that. So the first 4 books are Into Africa, Under Asian Skies, Distant Suns, and Tortillas to Totems. And for people who haven't come across them yet, then each book takes the reader through a different section of the 8-year round the world trip, which of course was not what I set out to do. I just planned to ride the length of Africa. And
after riding a motorcycle for how long?
I arrived at the edge of the Sahara Desert on the anniversary of my 3 months of first putting my leg over the back of a motorcycle.
You are crazy.
Yeah, really stupid, really stupid. But I traveled a lot in other ways. So it was a case of, look, those things, you know how much you don't know, or you have a clue about how much you don't know with this, so just take it steady. And if you do something stupid, then don't just get back on and ride off. Take a moment to think about what you did and what went wrong and try not to do it again. And that kind of worked. Of course, I am a disaster magnet, and that is one of the things that makes the book a bit fun at stages, because I do have a few events and happenings.
And the opening chapter, I'm like, okay, what a way to hook somebody of into Africa.
Do you know Chris Scott from the Adventure Motorcycle Handbook?
Yeah, of course.
That first chapter being there was because Chris Scott, when he read the manuscript before anybody else did, he said to me, Sam, you're unknown. You've got to put one of the most life-changing moments at the beginning of Into Africa. So you grab people. And if you do that, and he said, I love the rest of the book, then you might make this work. And so I owe what I do to Chris Scott.
Wow.
There's a 5th book out now. The 5th book is called The Moment Collectors.
I have that one as well. Cammy got that for my birthday.
Absolutely perfect. Can I explain about it?
How did that come about? Yeah.
Well, when we were going through COVID, I spent the first year thinking, gosh, I had 23 events lined up, and I'd spent a stack of money buying 4 pallets worth of books and so on to be selling at these events. And of course, COVID kicked in and everything just went. And because I've had a kidney transplant, I've got a very dodgy immune system. So that meant that I basically had to be a hermit.
Right.
So I'm spending a lot of time online and talking to people and linking up with friends that I haven't been in touch with for ages. So it was a really productive, friendly first year. But then I start to see an awful lot of negativity from the overlanding and travel world. We'll never be able to travel again, and it's not worth the effort. It's going to be too difficult and all of this sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, but that's always been the way. There have been wars that have popped up which have just totally closed off a continent. The rainy season has hit so badly that the whole of West Africa is almost impassable. Those sorts of things. Well, we're overlanders, so we work out a solution and we go around it, or we find another way of doing it. And I decided that what I wanted to do was to put a book together, not written by me, but with 20 authors, me being one of them, but 20 authors who were going to tell a story from one of their trips that was one of those, wow, this is why I'm out here moments. Actually, as something that's really positive and reminding people how important overlanding is and how special it is. I chose authors who ranged right the way through from people who were multiple book published right down to authors that had never written before. But I'd seen them and their stories online on Facebook and Instagram and so on. And I just thought to myself, what wonderful stories these are. And you guys can write, just need a bit of guidance. I wanted to have people who were riding 2 up. I wanted to have solo female riders, solo male riders, couples or 2 guys that were riding together on their own bikes, that sort of thing. So in other words, the whole mix that you're going to find when you're out on the road. I also wanted to have people who had never traveled before, and this was their first trip, right the way through to people who had traveled for a really long time. And I also wanted to have different nationalities. So we've got 5 nationalities in there. And this mix...
And the stories are told of trips in different continents too.
Oh, absolutely. 6 continents. And I mean, the idea is that this is what you're going to find. This is the joy. These are the challenges. This is the fun. This is where you find out about yourself. And that's one of the key reasons for going overlanding, isn't it? Because you find out so much about you, as well as the customs and cultures and so on.
Right.
And so it was a bit of a wing and a prayer, because I'd never done anything like this. But I thought, yeah, this is going to be fun.
It's been a huge hit. I mean, all my friends, you know, that read adventure books, travel books, have a copy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's proper community overlanding spirit, and that's something else, isn't it? Where everybody works together and helps everybody else and so on.
Yeah,
and it's
like
just
being
been
a part of
fun.
that tribe.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a lot of fun.
Now, reading the stories that you have in the Moment Collectors and combine that with your thoughts from travel, all your experience, do you find a singularity? What keeps bubbling to the top of anybody that's traveled about the world?
An increased sense of curiosity, a patience, an awareness of other people and how different we all are, and that actually it doesn't matter that our skin color is different or our religion's different.
Thank you.
Because we've still got the same priorities.
Absolutely.
You know, roof overhead, food in stomach, education for the kids.
Fall in love.
Yeah, fall in love. If your religion allows it, a beer on a Friday night, and something stashed away for old age. We're all the same.
Yeah.
But of course we're different. And that is part of what, for me, makes overlanding such a buzz. All of the differences as well as the similarities that we have.
Right. You know, go along with that. I think too that, especially reading some of your books, when you were in South America and were having some health issues, people put you up, people, you know, the kindness of strangers and the way that, like when I went to Mexico, all my friends and family, oh, it's, you know, you're going to get shot, you're going to, you know, this, that, and the other. But really all these books and all of the stories teach us that people are good all around the world.
People are, I mean, you've got your villains. We're human beings. So there's always going to be somebody somewhere that's a dodgy character. And that's why when you're in a really crowded section, then you just sling your backpack around and tuck it in front of you as you're walking through.
Right.
There are so many simple things that you can do to stop the scrotes of society managing to do something that's skullduggerous.
Right.
But they're just simple things.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is fear is a wonderful word. And what I mean by that is, when we're afraid of something, it's not there intended to put us off doing something. It's just our brain and our body saying to us, hey, wake up, start firing on all cylinders. You're going to do something that's different here. And one of the key ways to do those different things is to start showing respect. It's like we do when we meet somebody for the first time. We shake a hand and we give them a smile. Right. And it doesn't matter whether they speak English or anything else. It's that bit of respect, and all of a sudden the ice starts to break and friendships are made. Right. And respect is such a positive thing, isn't it? I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's earned too, you know. So if you walk up to a stranger and don't show them respect, well, they're not going to show you respect back. But
no, exactly.
The way you do it and the way you travel through the world, showing everybody love, kindness, and respect, it comes back to you, right?
I spend a lot of time smiling.
That's right.
It's really nice.
And you should look at the camera and do this.
I can do that.
Well, good. So your other books then continue your trip. After you completed Africa, you said, I'm not going back.
No, I mean, the plan was that after a year going through Africa, if I made it down to South Africa, then I'd go back home and I'd find a new career to do. But I'd been wild camping a lot and staying in really cheap local hotels, because that's where you find the local people. And I'd been eating local food and so on. So when I got down to the bottom of Africa, I still had a lot of money left from the money that I set off with. And I thought, I cannot think of a good reason to go home, but I can think of a lot of reasons to keep doing what I'm doing. So I ended up finding myself a ticket on a container ship to go from South Africa across to Australia.
You're so lucky. You can't do that today.
You can. You just have to hunt it out. It's much harder to get work your passage on a container ship, but there are some companies that will sell you the cabin. And my bike went for free. Nice. So it was way cheaper than flying me and shipping the bike separately. And what a wonderful experience. You could go anywhere on this container ship. So it was
So
brilliant
the
fun.
second book then became?
Under Asian Skies, and that takes you through Australia and New Zealand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Iran, Turkey, and through Eastern Europe. So that's almost 3 years worth of travel. I like side turning, so it takes me quite a long time to go from one place to the next.
And we would probably be remiss if we didn't mention that in your trips, the Birgit may have come up somewhere in there.
When I was in New Zealand, I was working in a backpackers hostel, and a German cyclist rolled in looking absolutely exhausted. Well, New Zealand's full of mountains, so she had every right to be. And I wasn't looking for a girlfriend, and she certainly wasn't looking for a boyfriend like me. But yeah, well, you know how it works. It clicks. And she joined me on the back of the bike in India and Nepal for 3 months, and we'd just got on so well. I said to her, look, I'm going to South America next. Would you like to come with me? And she said, well, yeah, but on 2 conditions. Okay. She said, I want to go to Africa first. Sure, I don't mind going back to Africa. It's fantastic. There's loads I didn't see, and there's a lot of things that I'd love to be able to show you. And then she said, I want to have my own motorcycle. I thought, right, okay. As we rolled out of the port in Mombasa, in the third book, Distant Suns, she'd been riding a motorcycle for 600 miles.
Oh my gosh.
Africa is a wonderful place to learn to ride a motorcycle.
Right.
She proves it.
Oh, that's hilarious. Hopefully you stayed away from the big cities. That can be crazy riding a motorcycle in a big city if you're new.
Yeah, no, it really can. It's how it must have been in a dogfight in the First World War.
Right.
You're just always looking for incomings and unexpected, but you get tuned into it.
Yep.
And the first thing you do when you're riding that sort of road, throw out any sense of machismo and dampen down the testosterone, because they're not your friends in that sort of environment.
Pull over to the side and watch how everybody else is doing it first.
Exactly.
And then try to flow like water, right? Yep. There's no rules, just flow like water.
It's like riding in Vietnam, isn't it?
Right.
Saigon has 1 million motorcycles.
Right.
And if you don't ride like the locals, well, you're going to be that rock in the stream where the salmon are all swimming upstream. And
right. Pack. So then the final one, of course, Tortillas to Totems, all the way up to Alaska.
Yeah, we rode up through South and Central America. That was the second and third section of Distant Suns, and then up into Mexico, United States, Canada, and up towards Alaska. North America actually was the continent that surprised me the most. It kept on making me think, I didn't know that.
Right.
And, oh, I didn't expect it to be that way, which is one of the reasons that I keep coming back.
You know, what's funny is I follow a lot of YouTubers, and Nora Lee, I'm sure you're familiar with, from Itchy Boots, is saying the exact same thing right now. Her channel is headed through North America, and she's like, I can't believe this. I didn't expect all of this. You know, it's just totally different than what I expected. But
I think one of the things that gets me about the United States is the hospitality here is absolutely incredible. Now, it does help that you've got an English accent, and it does help that I've got a Union Jack on the back of my crash helmet. That's just a warning to people coming up behind me that there's a weirdo sitting in front of them.
So when you dump your motorcycle, what are the phrases you use to get somebody to help you?
Oh gosh, and fiddlesticks first. And then I say, I'm in a spot of bother. Do you think you'd possibly give me a hand? Never fails.
That's great. I love it.
Anybody who is dreaming of going overlanding, doing a big trip outside of their own country in particular, but inside their own country, that's fantastic too, but outside of their own country, don't be afraid of doing it. Just be respectful of what you don't know. Being respectful towards those situations, that's just a wonderful enhancer. And you'll go out there with your mind full of curiosity. And the big tip is, if you plan a year, actually try and make it a year and a half, because you're going to find so many things that are fascinating along the way.
And the hardest thing about taking a big trip?
Is not getting the money together. Getting the money together is really straightforward, and people are going to be watching this and thinking, what are you talking about? But stop buying coffees, stop eating out, stop buying bottles of wine, all of those sorts of things. You know, if you've made the decision to go traveling, then focus on those things.
Right.
And every time you don't buy a beer and every time you don't buy a bottle of wine, put that straight into your piggy bank account.
Right.
And you'll be amazed at how quickly, with that sort of mindset, things come in. I think one of the most important things is, well, if you can eat well and you can sleep well, then you can travel with a smile. And I think if you learn something about the cultures of the countries that you're going to be going through, then you will understand so much more about what you're seeing, and you're much less likely to stomp your motorcycle boots on something that might be offensive to do.
Right.
And yeah, we can go out there and learn.
I also find in a foreign country, if you take the time to learn to say please and thank you in the local language, you may stumble at it. Your accent may not be perfect, but they'll appreciate that you're trying.
I have a wonderful photograph that Birgit took of me in Vietnam. Well, it's not me, but there's 3 youngsters. And I've been practicing Vietnamese. And I said to these kids, can you tell me where the toilet is, please? And the 3 of them just instantly cracked up. I have no idea what I said, but it was obviously not, can you tell me where the toilet is, please? And Birgit just caught that picture beautifully.
Oh, great.
And it's a gem. You know, that's one of the things about languages, isn't it?
Right.
You're going to cock it up.
Right.
But so what?
Yeah, absolutely. At least you're trying.
Yeah, exactly. People value that, don't they?
Absolutely. And I would have to also add, I think the hardest part about doing a trip is to leave.
It is. The first 20 miles, knowing that you're beginning and actually you've told your mates in the pub that you're going to do this, and so you can't turn around.
To save face, you have to leave.
Exactly. And that's what happened to me. I mean, I got halfway down through France and I was just thinking, my bike's telling me what to do. I'm just hanging on the back. I am really uncomfortable about this, but no, I've told my mates I'm doing this, so don't turn around.
Too embarrassed to go back.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Thank you so much. It's been great having you, Sam. We really appreciate it. And
absolutely likewise.
thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Stick around for more stories coming later.